will come to order. Madam Clerk, can you read the roll, please?
Marco T. Camacho.
Here.
Lynn Underwood Segley.
Here.
John F. Flores.
Here.
Catherine E. Leonard. Here. Justin S. McLaughlin.
Here.
Jean Marie Napolitano.
Here.
Naomi Neville.
Here.
There's a quorum present, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Has anyone signed up for the Citizens Forum?
No, they have not.
First item?
A public hearing, action item 5443, Community Development Block Grant Application.
Yes, this is a public hearing. It went up on the website for our Community Development Block Grant. Is there anyone of the public, from the public, that would like to address this matter?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to close the public hearing and approve accompanying resolution.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion.
I just wanted to bring up, what I keep missing from this, or what we've talked about for years, is a generator at the Edward King Center. It's not on this list. We bring it up every year in our budget cycle. We've talked about the fact that there might be some fund that could pay for the generator at the Edward King Center, but I guess I was just a little disappointed to read this list and see that it still wasn't on there. So I would just like to highlight if we could somehow solve that problem, or maybe it has been solved. Okay.
Could you identify yourself for the record, please? Nice and tall.
Carmela Gear, Executive Director, Edward King House. Councilwoman Neville, thank you so much for bringing that up. I have the feeling that we might be able to solve the problem as we look at the bigger picture of the work that needs to be done at the King House. And I think that's about as much as I really can say right now, because I know that the Director of Public Services is working on what's needed for the house itself. So the generator itself is a small part of an entire plan for the house. So with any luck and a whole lot of hard work, we might be able to envelop, in fact, I'm almost certain we'd be able to envelop that particular piece into the bigger picture or the broader scope.
And has there been talk about the funding then of the larger scope, where that money would be coming from?
Yes, there's been a lot of talk and planning and, working on a campaign with regards to what's needed. And I think without putting a cart before the horse, that indeed once we have an idea of what the entire plan is for the house, is that the biggest issue right now for the house is sealing the house, the roof and the masonry. With weather getting into the house, the generator will do us no good if the infrastructure of the house itself is not in solid shape. So it kind of starts there and it works its way down to everything from a generator to windows to making sure we have the best of heating and cooling plan for the house itself. So there really is a big picture surrounding that, and all the pieces are now beginning to kind of come together in what direction we should be going in. And indeed, I think you'll be hearing about that very, very soon.
Okay.
And you won't be disappointed, and I won't be disappointed, and hopefully we'll have lots of good news as we move forward on that.
Okay, great. That's good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Are there any other questions from the council in regard to the Community Block Grant app? Okay, are we ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent calendar in its entirety.
Second. There's a motion and second to approve the consent calendar in its entirety. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Appointments to boards and commissions.
Yes, I move to appoint James Sullivan to the Juvenile Hearing Board.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. I make a motion to appoint Ellen Nichols to the Energy and Environment Commission.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion, Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Planning Board, we are looking at one vacancy, and we have not completed the interview process. So that should be completed hopefully next meeting. Resolutions?
Resolution regarding the Pell School Technology Endowment Campaign funding request.
Counselor Neville?
Thank you. I'll just read this. Whereas the goal of the Technology Endowment Campaign is to raise $1 million for an endowment to guarantee the future financial health of the Pell Elementary School's technology resources for the school children of Newport, allowing for the timely updating of both software and hardware. And whereas research shows that in today's classrooms, all pre-K through grade 4 students benefit with access to laptops and/or iPads to gain positive outcomes for student engagement. And whereas the endowment funds are to be within a restricted account held by the City of Newport, and whereas the Technology Endowment Campaign has to date raised $265,000 in pledges from a variety of generous donors, and whereas the Technology Endowment Campaign Committee has received an additional grant in the amount of $200,000 from Aletta Morris McBean Charitable Trust, and the committee has requested that the City Council provide the required matching funds. Now therefore be it resolved that the Newport City Council approves the allocation of funds in the amount of $200,000 as the matching grant to the McBean Charitable Trust's generous contribution. I would just like to add a few comments. I do realize that one of the whereases is a little confusing, and just to clarify, the McBean charitable donation is required to be matched, but it does not need to be rematched by the City of Newport. That was just a request of the committee to be the symbolic matcher. They've already raised the required matching funds. That being said, setting up an endowment of this sort is an excellent way to provide a consistent funding stream for keeping our technology up to date, and that the investment is living off the interest that's generated from the endowment. So it's smart planning. Many large institutions, most large institutions, work very hard on growing endowments. It makes sense for the Pell School to have a technology endowment. Many counselors I've talked to also have expressed and have been involved in this process of highlighting the importance, and I would just ask my fellow counselors to also support this, as that it's an excellent way of planning for our students' future. Thank you.
Are you making a motion?
Oh, and I make a motion to pass the resolve.
Second. There's a motion and second. Discussion.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Counselor Leonard.
I'm not going to vote for this for several reasons. My first one is that it's not, this $200,000 that we're talking about to come out of taxpayers' money is not my money. And we are, in this resolution, asking the taxpayers to give $200,000 of taxpayer money to an independent group, not to the school committee, not to the school department, but to an independent group. That's my first comment. My second comment is that this city has a lot of expenses coming up. When we had the workshop on the Gateway Center, it was discussed that the city may have to contribute $660,000 rather than $110,000, and $660,000 is not a piddly drop in the bucket. We're also facing the idea that we would be able to purchase the Old Navy Hospital land at a price to be determined. We have a loss of casino revenue, and taking all these things into account, I know that it says no public, I can't think of the word. In other words, it's not going to come out of the taxpayers' money. But in fact, to me anyway, because I'm kind of stingy with people's money, not my own, if we're facing what could be 660,000, this is 200,000, the Navy land.
The Navy
lost-
land is not on the table
I
yet.
know it's not.
So
Oh,
you're
all
getting too
right.
far
Well,
ahead
any
on that.
future
Take that
thing.
example out.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd request that, yeah.
But any of these things, if we look at it long-term, if we have this much money, to me, sitting in a fund that we could so easily access, then maybe we had the taxes raised too high. I mean, I really feel pretty strongly about that. And like I said, it's not my money. It's not done under the school committee because they said they never voted on it. So for that reason, I just can't do it because I don't know if all taxpayers would want to give 200,000 of their money to an independent group, no matter how well-intended and no matter how good the cause is. It's just, it's a private group and not that I can remember, have we done this before?
Okay, any other comments from council members?
Madam Chair?
Um,
Go ahead,
Oh,
Councilman
no, that's
Glover.
all right, I'd rather, I
Oh,
didn't.
okay, thank you. Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to thank Councilman Noble for bringing this forward as well. One of the important things with this, and I'll echo Councilor Leonard's concerns, we don't take handing over $200,000 lightly, especially, when it comes to education. One of the biggest things here, and one of the things that swayed me, was the planned obsolescence of all technology. I could use my original iPad as an example. The thing still works, but I can't even download the software anymore because technology has moved that quickly. I think if we don't set up this endowment and we don't take this kind of opportunity where we do have matching charitable contributions for the kids, then what we're ultimately doing is we're leaving our kids behind technologically. Now, we're serious about STEM and STEAM and building a North End Innovation Hub, and this is one of those things that you have to do, and you have to do early on, and you have to guarantee that those monies are there in perpetuity. The best way to guarantee that is to make sure that it isn't a trust and that it is living off its interest. So therefore, I wholly encourage my fellow councilors all to support this tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Justin? Councilor McLaughlin?
Thank you.
Sorry.
I am not going to vote for this, but I want to make some points perfectly clear. When I read the letter that was actually written by the committee, the second paragraph, and the third paragraph, which talks about the needs in our classrooms today, the need for technology, laptops, iPads, the needs for teachers to be able to do the professional development, blended learning. I couldn't endorse anything more highly than what those two paragraphs talk about. $200,000 into an endowment, though, is not how to answer the needs of those two paragraphs. In some ways, I want to compliment the sensitivity of the group that worked on this. I was involved early on. I didn't think it was for an endowment. Initially, I thought it was to raise funds to meet needs which had not been fully funded through the school bond, and that there might be technology needs in this building that weren't going to be met because there wasn't enough money. So this was going to supplement that and meet those needs now, because that's the real issue, is meeting the technology needs of the school today. Nobody can debate the importance of technology in our educational system today and going forward. Those are where our children are going to get the best paying jobs, and we want to educate as many of them as possible. But we fund the schools with our annual budget. Any suggestion that we don't give money to the schools just doesn't stand. We gave them $24 million last year, or roughly that, when you consider all of the other things in addition to what was in the budget. If the schools have a technology need, the school committee should articulate that clearly, carefully, and come to us. Middletown recently spent almost $1 million in technology development in their schools. If that's what our schools need, we shouldn't be talking about putting $200,000 in a safety deposit box to spend the interest or principal over the time going forward. We should be talking about what we need to fund those technology needs today. And I see messages floating around that talk about teachers who are trying to raise money on social media so they can do technology projects in their classrooms. That shouldn't be the case. We should be talking about how we can fund the schools, all of the classrooms, all of the grades, all of the schools, to do as much as they need to be doing in technology areas today. I don't want to get too critical, but there's a subtle suggestion that the school committee and the city council can't be relied upon to fund the schools on an annual basis. I take a little bit of umbrage against that. Heaven knows I've been the school committee's harshest critic over certain years when they were building up surpluses, where they were saving money that the taxpayers were paying, and they weren't spending it on the schools. But when that flipped over, you found me to be a keen supporter of the schools and recognizing the fact that they do need more money today. We should be responsive to their articulated needs. And I think the school committee and the city council can be relied upon to provide the technology funding on an annual basis going forward. Two last points, though, and I just don't agree. Even if I could somehow embrace this, I do not believe that this is how we should be spending taxpayer money, which we raise by property taxes. It's perfectly all right to have endowments. My father endowed a small scholarship for a nursing student at Boston University after my mother died. That's what endowments are for. I don't believe endowments are for municipalities to fund functions in their schools or in their government some way. Having said that, I want to make one last point, because I believe the sentiment of the council is to pass this, and that is that under our current ordinance, which says the Trust and Investment Commission shall have custody and control of all trust funds established by the city. Well, this is not a trust fund that was established by the city, so if we move forward, there's going to be some work that needs to be done to allow our Trust and Investment Commission to handle these funds. I think the arrangement that's spelled out in the trust agreement points out some, loose edges where we're asking our you could be asking the Trust and Investment Commission to accept responsibilities, but we didn't agree that, and it's not in this resolution tonight. So I think if you do agree to move forward on this, the administration is going to have to come back with some suggested changes to our ordinances so that we can do this legally. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Any other comments?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilor Segley.
Well, I agree with Councilman McLaughlin's sentiment that the technology should be funded properly for today's technology needs. I think that we need to look to the future, and I believe that that's what this effort does. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this money is going to go from one city account to another city account, and the money that will be spent will be the interest off of this money. So I think that this is a worthwhile effort, and I am going to support it. Thank you.
Okay. What I'd like to say, and I'll get to you, Marco, I did have some questions from constituents, and I'd like to read my reply because there was some discussion afterwards, and I'm pretty much on board with this. And this is to a constituent, I could understand your hesitation if this were a new idea without any basis except to extract more money from the city. However, I checked out the information with a number of reliable sources. This effort has been ongoing for the last 3 years or more. It gives the council and the school committee a path to follow and the taxpayers relief from future debts. This was initiated by the Newport Public Education Foundation, a private group of many individuals who over the years have supported and worked for all the students in Newport to enhance education. Many don't even have kids in the system and are under no obligation to promote this activity. However, through their generous time and energy, and without funding from the city in the past, they've given a gift to our kids. This structure is a smart business decision. They deserve kudos for their perseverance and effort, and that's the reason I'm supporting this resolution. And I really believe this is a smart decision. I think it's a way to certainly, be able to maintain technology, and it changes every single day. Be able to give our kids in the future the kinds of tools that they need to get good jobs and to stay here with their families. So I am supporting this totally. Trust and Investment Commission, although details will have to be worked out, I'm sure, the money currently and in the future will be under the supervision of our finance department and our finance director. I have full faith that it will be handled accordingly. And I think the Trust and Investment Commission has served us very, very well in the last 10 years. So I have no problems with this resolution, nor giving this money. We did sell Underwood School. There was money that we have from that. And I think this is to spend a small portion on the future of our kids, it's a good way to go. My last comment in terms of what was mentioned about Middletown technology, I don't think it worked out very well between their people in education and the council and that expenditure. So I like this idea, and I congratulate those who have supported it. Martha?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Solicitor Bean, I'm looking for a legal opinion on what was brought up by Councilor McLaughlin, if you could, please.
Justin's right that in Section 2.84.040 of our ordinances, the Commission has custody and control of all trust funds established by the city. This isn't being established by the city. But in 2.84.060, Commission also has custody, care, and control of funds now held or hereafter left in trust to the city. So we'd have to make a determination as to whether this is being left in trust to the city. So Justin is somewhat correct that as we go through this process, there may be a need to revamp some of the documentation that's already been produced, such as that trust agreement, or it may, down the line, need an ordinance revision also, or a resolution from this council. So it's something we'll look at. If you vote in the affirmative and passes, then we'll look at the documentation, see what we need in order to bring it to fruition.
Okay, but there's nothing in your legal opinion that would make that yes vote null and void later, should we vote yes tonight, right? It's not.
Well, no, it's not going to be null and void, but as we look, we are going to have to
We have a
do...
little homework to do.
Yeah, we got to cross the Ts and dot the Is, make sure it can be done. But I think there is another provision that with the three parties involved, the foundation, the trustees are going to appoint, and the commission, it's almost as if all of them are trustees of this money. And I think we start with that trust agreement just to make it a little, it probably needs some work in order to get to the point we need to.
I'm ready to vote.
Are we ready to vote? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, please raise your right hand. Thank you.
Resolution requesting the city administration to include in its fiscal year 2016-17 budget a line item for hiring a chief information officer.
Councilor Flores.
I would like to add one amendment to that, which calls for the administration to provide the council with a job description by March 15th of 2016, please.
I'd second that motion.
Motion and seconded
That's a resolve.
to the amended motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
It's important to understand the goal and objectives of this resolution as it pertains to who we are as a city, but also where we plan on going. We're a globally recognized city with a $130 million annual budget, and we're also a city with a lot of complexity and nuance. With that said, we're also a city that's trying to redefine our economic landscape. Initiatives like the Innovation Hub and the Sheffield School have the potential to transform our local economy from a seasonal tourist one to a far more complex, broader economy with a greater diversity of employment opportunities. A Chief Information Officer, that's what it's called, a CIO. It's an essential hire for a city of Newport's goals and level of complexity. While we currently have an IT manager, the role of a CIO differs significantly. An IT manager or an IT director manages the day-to-day operations of the entire IT department. A CIO is different. A CIO is a very senior level member of the executive staff who has the complete understanding of the city's business and strategic objectives. What they then do is, based on those strategic and business objectives, they create a technology strategy that they align with those business goals. And that's really the major difference here. The results that you can typically expect in this type of scenario, hiring someone like this, are greater efficiencies on the part of the city administration, significant cost savings, and also just a general greater delivery of city services to its citizens. I've reached out to a couple of CIOs. I reached out to the CIO of East Providence, Battle Creek, Michigan. I got very detailed feedback from these individuals who both adamantly believe that a city like ours could see significant benefits from such a hire. So I strongly urge my fellow council members to support me in this measure.
Is there a second?
I'll second for purposes of discussion.
Okay. Discussion.
Madam Chair, I would just like to say, I think it's an interesting idea that Councilor Flores has brought up, and it actually, in my mind, spurred on more questions in terms of needing to identify or maybe sort of create a consistency or overall scheme. I guess what my immediate reaction was, well, if we do a CIO, how does that interact with the fact that we have an IT director? We're going to start a communication director. We have our civic investment director. We hire Engage Newport with Worldways. We run a website. And I think in my mind, it actually gelled the fact that right now we have a lot of different things all going on, and it does seem like we could somehow coordinate a better sort of understanding of that staffing flow. I'm not quite ready to say, well, I think we're ready to hire a new CIO, if that makes sense.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Council.
I agree with Councilor Neville. I mean, we are disjointed in some of our technology issues, and there's no doubt about it. But I would like to see staff look at this and to come back to us with a recommendation for a position. And whether or not that position could possibly be combined with the communications director, you know, I really don't know. But I think that I would be comfortable with it being, recommending it going to the staff for further assessment.
I want to make a quick point. The communications director role is someone that manages the internal and the external communications of the city. A CIO is vastly different. A CIO manages the strategic and business objectives of the city and establishes a technology platform that aligns with that. So the two roles are just completely different from one another. Just want to make that point.
And so I mean, I think it's an interesting description, but I would then counter, well, we're not such a big city that sometimes our directors have to do multiple jobs, that their actual role envelops more. So not saying that the communication director does the CIO job, but we also have the IT director, and we also have civic investment, which I thought would, in a way, manages our business. But that being said, I think the discussion is leading to the fact that we have a lot of new positions, some that are filled, some that will be filled, and this would be another one. And at the moment, I don't think, at least I don't have a good sense of how those jobs are all tasked.
Madam Chair?
Chair.
Yes, Counselor McLaughlin.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Then Counselor Leonard.
Councilor Perez and I had a long conversation earlier this week, and you know, I basically explained to him, I said, John, it looks like you want to buy some bricks. And part of the problem is we're not really sure what the brick wall or the structure we're going to build looks like. And you're trying to help us out because you see the need. We need to be buying some bricks. And in some ways, what John's asking for is, well, we're not going to go down to Home Depot and buy those bricks for many months. So in some ways, the idea that maybe we should buy this brick isn't a bad thing. It's important that we look to see how it would align with everything else that's going on. We gave the city manager the money to fund a communications director position, and when we eventually get to talking about that, I'm going to argue against it and say we should let the city manager decide how he should take all of the tools we're willing to fund, and this could be one of them, and put together a city manager process that most effectively supports him or her in being the city manager of Newport and supports all of the departments and all of the employees under him and the city council. This may be one of the things we need to do. I'm not afraid to investigate it. I have a lot of skepticism whether it will align and how it will fit with everything else, but it doesn't bother me that we do it. But as John and I talked, I think the most important thing we need to do as a council is start talking about what's that wall going to look like. You know, we've talked about doing strategic planning, and we thought, well, we'll wait till we hire a new city manager, and I think we should still wait till that new city manager is in place to actually, in some ways, build this wall. But that doesn't mean we can't start that conversation, and I think John's, encouraging us with these ideas, all three of his resolutions tonight, to look at how we're going to put our future together and what kind of tools we need to do it. So in some ways, I wasn't a big supporter of any of these resolutions, but it doesn't hurt to talk about them. I think we just need to put them in a structure. And so I can support this, but if we just don't support a resolution, and then we don't have the conversation about, well, what kind of wall are we trying to build, we're wasting everybody's time. So I hope we do that soon. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Counselor.
I think Counselor McLaughlin eloquently said, better than I could, that maybe it's like the bricks on the wall and we grow and the process gets better, but I look at this resolve and it says that the city council would like to recommend that the city administration include this position in the budget year 2016-17, which to me means in order to actually hire the person, we would have to vote to fund it. So in those terms, I think it gives us the time to look at the position, how it meets the criteria for all the pieces we want to put together, and the importance of it on how the city can grow and improve. So I'm supporting this because I think that the thought process is there, and if we don't think ahead as to how this road will go or the wall will be built, that these things fall to the wayside. So I think it's good that this came up, and I think that it warrants the discussion, and it's a recommendation request, so I'm going to support it.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
Could I just ask, what are we recommending? are we recommending that it be put into the next year's budget, or are we recommending that it go to staff for further review?
No. The recommendation is to put a line item in next year's budget for this position.
But there's you also added a second resolve about,
Add a job description.
describing.
To add a
Yeah.
job description
Right.
by March 15th of 2016.
I actually, I agree with Kate's assessment. Other than recommending that we put this money in the budget for 16, 17, there's a lot of work, and I also agree with Councilor Neville, a lot of work that we have to do in order to make it right. I don't necessarily see us hiring a communication director, manager, whatever the job stipulation is, at the same time that this council is working to hire a manager. We'd like things in sync, and we'd like it in sync with a new manager. They may determine that somehow some of these functions could be merged, as you said, but, for that reason, I'm going to support it, because if it didn't work out, we can always have the money moved back in to another area or back to the general fund.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'd also like to, build on what you just said, and I'm hearing everyone here and everyone's reservations. I'm kind of in the middle as well. When I think CIO, I think another W-2 employee that we're going to be adding, that we're potentially going to be adding in perpetuity. I used the term a little while ago to address planned obsolescence in technology, but I think planned obsolescence has to be built in to those who actually work within technology as well. I'm receptive to the idea of a CIO. However, I don't know if that should be a standard W-2 employee, or we should hire them like on a 3-year contract, the same way we do a city manager. However, I see that Councilor Flores is correct in that if we are going to be moving in this direction where we want a, I guess for lack of a better word, tech czar, because we're trying to bring all the technology initiatives in the city of Newport together, then I think that it's both necessary and proper of us to set aside that line item and take this up during the budgetary cycle in 2016 when we come back in January. I think that's a smart thing to do. I was just looking at the resolution list that we had here, and I looked at 2015-32 recommendations from the Newport Information Technology Working Group. That's active. Investigating possible funding sources for police body cameras. There's technology there that we've never used before, and it's not even being utilized. When you're talking about doing those kinds of recordings and data storage and everything, those are things that I think need to have someone who has an all-encompassing idea and a vision of what needs to be done. Not only that, we passed a resolution establishing shared services between school committee and city council. If we're going to be merging our interests on the web with their interests on the web, then I think that we're going to need somebody who has that overreaching or overarching vision and authority to get something like that done. Again, there's a lot to do here, but I think that passage of this resolution tonight can set the conditions so that we can really seriously get down to the weeds in 2016.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilor Neville.
I would say if there's a sentiment to continue with the process of researching whether or not a CIO is necessary, I would make a motion to add a third resolve. So we have the one that puts aside the funding for it, the second, which is to determine its job description, and I would say the third, I would ask to have a third resolve be added to say that this job become explained in such a way that its creation and what its duties are reflect how it would fit into the overall staffing matrix of what we currently have, and how the jobs and everyone's responsibilities are all in alignment, that we're not creating something redundant or overlapping, and that there's the true need. So I would ask that we add that resolve and that have that be done at the same time as the March job description.
I'd second that.
There's a motion second. On the amendment, all in or on the new resolve, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair, if I could just, the thought comes to my mind. Sitting up here frequently in the budget cycle, there's always been, it's not quite time yet, it's not quite time yet. And then suddenly sometime in May, it's too late, John basically isn't going to he's not going to be told it's too late to get something on the budget. He's basically telling us, let's start thinking about this now. It's not a bad strategy, John.
Okay, are we ready to vote on the resolution as originally the original resolution as amended by both Councilor Flores and Councilor Neville?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. And on the original, well, I guess that covered it all.
That's it.
Yeah, forget that.
Resolution requesting the city administration to create a monthly newsletter and news conferences.
This resolution calls for the creation of a monthly press conference where citizens, members of the administration, and the council can come together and discuss various local issues on a monthly basis, proposing that this be done once a month. This has actually been done in Barnstable, Massachusetts, and it's been enormously successful. I had a pretty detailed discussion with their assistant city manager, Mark Ells, who's started the program there. And he says it's just been a tremendous success. What he's seen, the results of this program, greater citizen participation in city government, improved transparency, that's something that all of us want. And it's also a way that helps empower the citizens of the community and ultimately fosters better relations between the city administration and the people of the community. The second piece of this is also a monthly online newsletter that citizens subscribe to. I get these from Providence. I get these newsletters from Central Falls. The mayor of Central Falls updates everybody. I think they do it once every 2 weeks. And it's just a great way to really sync up the community in a modern sort of fashion. The press conference, I think that's, the challenge here is coming up with a name for it, right? The press conference, that's what they call it in Barnstable. But really, I see it as a way for the community to get together and exchange ideas in a non-confrontational, really objective and strategic sort of way. And over time, from the feedback that I received from the assistant city manager of Barnstable, Massachusetts, there are very positive elements to it. So,
Need a motion?
Madam Chair?
Are you going to make a motion?
Oh, you're making a motion?
To
Move to approve.
move to approve it, yes.
Is there a
Yes.
second?
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion?
Sorry, I jumped the gun there. If I may, Madam Chair. I'm not as comfortable with this one as I was for the previous one, and there's one word that if it was changed, I'd feel much more comfortable. Will implement I would replace with to research, because I'm not sure how this is going to work, and I'm not prepared to vote to implement the concept that's being proposed here with respect to the, quote, news conference or whatever. With respect to the monthly newsletter, I think Councilor Camacho may be prepared to talk to an initiative that we're already doing. So I defer to that, but I just would recognize that maybe we're doing something in one area already, and I'm not prepared to support the other if the word is implemented.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Councilor Neville.
I know we're all eager to hire this communication director and that we have sort of waited because we're slow on the city manager search. But in my mind, these are great suggestions for the new communication director to take, but I would feel more comfortable with that person whose job it will be to manage these type of things to decide how and when and where these type of actions of both the press conference would happen, especially the press conference. I just feel like sometimes that could go horribly wrong. Sometimes it could be great, but it really needs the communication director to be the leader. And I think I would feel better if we were to push this after hiring that communication director. And similarly, I mean, I do get that newsletter nowadays in my water bill. I don't remember its frequency, but Engage Newport, we hire Worldways to put out that newsletter, which I love. I love that newsletter, and I'd like to see more of it. So I agree. I guess the question is do we already have it? Is it monthly? I'm not sure. But in my mind, again, these are all wrapped up into what the new communication director should be doing as part of his job.
Yes, Councilor
Yep,
Camacho.
Madam Chair, I actually believe I can answer that in reference to the Engage Newport newsletter. In my capacity as a liaison to the editorial board for Engage Newport, when we put this together, we have the monthly meeting on the second Tuesday of every morning, and we make a determination of what would go on that newsletter and what gets posted as far as, just important news, things that are, really at the forefront of what people are thinking about, whether it be the Broadway streetscape project or even community spotlights with the Dr. Martin Luther King Center or Newport Health Equity Zone. Organizations also piggyback on this. Edward King House puts out important notifications for Fall Recycling Day. One of the challenges is when we appropriated funds to Worldways, again, we're working on a limited budget. One of the ways that we have provided cost savings is we are able to piggyback this newsletter, which is double-sided. It's on one single page. It is in color to capture the eye, but we're only doing that quarterly right now. So there is a cost. I can't remember the cost off the top of my head. There is a cost savings because we are only mailing it to ratepayers as of right now, so we save money on the stamps and we save money on the envelopes because we're going with the water department to make that happen. I could say right now that the next one, if we maintain a quarterly distribution, is due in December. If the last one was mailed in September. There have been 4. The September one was actually the 4th one that we've gotten, and I could say that from a feedback from a community standpoint, that people like having that hard copy. It reminds them of what Newport's doing, but in a very simple way of like, okay, you know what, I'm looking at my water bill, but these are the goings-on in the city as well. As a board, we would love to expand it to monthly, but we realize there is an additional cost, so that will require an additional appropriation. It's one of the things that here, I like the idea of Councilor Flores's monthly mailer. We would like to expand this to a monthly mailer as well. If we do, and we start mailing independent of the water bill, that's an additional cost. Because as you know, you can't reach everyone through the water bill, you're only reaching the ratepayers. So if you're gonna mail to each individual home or citizen here, you're gonna have to incur the cost of the stamp and the cost of the envelope. We don't know exactly what that would be yet, so I would like to see what the numbers are, from staff before we would even vote on that measure. However, in concept, we do completely agree that we would like to take it to a monthly one-page newsletter for the citizens of Newport. On the resolved issue that Councilor McLaughlin brought up, I agree with his position on changing the word from implement to research. One of the major things, too, is we don't know what that communications director is going to be. Mr. Nicholson's done a great job as our city manager, but he's only going to be our city manager for
Maybe 2 days.
2 more years. For a little while longer. So again, just to echo Councilor Neville's sentiments, we are in a little bit of a flux here before we get there. I certainly don't want to kill any of the ideas here. I think they're valid, but I don't think that we're necessarily ready to vote yes on this because we don't have the full picture of cost or implementation or even structure for those meetings yet. I'm looking at this, I see the chair, the mayor of the city of Newport, one of 7 equals on this dais, but in this situation, she holds the court here. We have the authority as council. When you start mixing department heads, city manager, The chair slash mayor, there's a little bit of a debate on, how we should moderate that. I know in the citizens forum, when we speak here at every meeting, 22 meetings a year, we do have rules. So we want to make sure that, the proper rules are established to holding any kind of open meeting with the public. You don't want that one person to, try to hijack the meeting, make it about themselves, political posturing, doing things when the cameras are rolling. Here, we operate under Robert's rules, we operate under the rules of council. I want to make sure that we have a thoroughly established system of rules in place when we do finally go forward. I don't know if we can do that by October 31st, but I think at the very least, we should refer this back to the city manager for guidance, further guidance on this.
Do we
Thank you.
have,
Madam Chair?
Madam Chair, do we have a number? What's the circulation for that newsletter? The hard copy,
Oh,
I-
I'm sorry.
roughly?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but
It's 8,000.
is it 8,000 users?
8,000.
It's 8,000,
Right. I would also
So-
offer this, that one of the issues there too is that we are going to want to aggressively pursue an electronic newsletter as well. The more people that take advantage of that set it and forget it feature for the water bill are not going to be getting this in the mail anymore, because quite frankly, they're just going to have their water bills auto-deducted. So this will evolve like anything else, even
So-
from a hard copy.
Sure,
Madam
so
Madam
just-
Chair, if I could just jump in as a point of order, I think you still get the bill, even though you do the automatic deduction.
really?
So
Yeah,
I
you
think
do.
you still get the bill.
Okay, I stand corrected, I'm sorry.
Okay, so if
Yes.
there's 8,000 new newsletters, and just the stamps alone, the cost for the stamps, postage, that's $2,560, right, monthly, not including the cost of the actual paper. We're talking about minimal effort, putting together, cutting and pasting a couple of images, having a couple of department heads putting some content into that newsletter and distributing it, right? So from a cost-saving standpoint, I don't think there's much of a dialogue there. I mean, it's pretty clear, it's pretty evident. Now, what I'm hearing, and I say this with all respect and not in any sort of a combative manner, I'm hearing a lot of, let's research, let's put this up for further review, research. To me personally, these are all code words for procrastination, right? We're talking about a very simple concept. Yesterday, had a barbecue, and a lot of you were there, who attended. It was a really diverse crowd. We had the Cullens there. We had Jack Milburn there, right? I mean, you had the entire political spectrum of the Newport here, and everyone got along fabulously. It was just a good time. I'm confident if we set a structure up of how to go about this news conference, or however you want to call it. That's probably not the best name if you really think about it, but a way for the administration, the council, and the citizens to get together and just have an exchange of ideas. I don't see how that's a bad thing.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
do you want to go next? I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Did I jump in?
I'll
Okay.
let you jump.
Okay, thank you. I can't disagree with Councilor Flores, but it seems to me, I mean, the public wants transparency, we need transparency, but this has not been fleshed out in my mind enough, that we need to have this looked at, and how are we going to go about it? How many people are going to get it? How is it going to be mailed out? A lot of this information is already on Engage Newport. Would we have Engage Newport create some kind of an email list? I mean, there are so many, we have so many choices out there as to how to deal with this. I'm comfortable with the word research, but I really don't believe that is kicking this down the road. I think we need something like this. And I think this is the direction that we want a city manager to go into. But as far as the idea that we're just trying to delay, that's not the case. The case is that this needs to be fleshed out more.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilor Leonard.
I have a couple of questions here. First one, I know that there's a cost to newsletters, because early on, I used to do newsletters and send them out to houses in my ward, and I can tell you that it gets somewhat expensive. I like John's idea a lot of an electronic newsletter, because I don't want to kill trees either. So I think that most people today are computer literate, and that if we make it available to them, maybe we could have a system where it's automatically mailed to those that want to get it, like we do on like an emergency system that we have. So I like the idea of a newsletter. I like the electronic form, because I know from experience how that works. And I understand, and I've heard several people here say the word, that they would prefer the resolve to say research instead of implement. I don't see that anybody made a motion to amend it with that word, so unless I missed something. But other than that.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Counselor
Okay, I would actually like to make a motion at this time to amend, and here's two reasons why. Under the first resolve, I'd like to piggyback on Counselor McLaughlin's recommendation to change the word implement to research. And I would also like to strike completely off of here the last resolve for first news conference and newsletter are to be implemented by October 31st, 2015. One of the reasons I say that is because when we met as a editorial board last Wednesday after this was published, we asked, no joke, can we get, if this is implemented, can I get an October newsletter out in the mail? And the answer was no, because that time has already passed. A third party prints up the bills, gets them mailed out for October 1st, so I literally can't get an October newsletter out, even if I wanted to here, unless we set up a complete different system in the next couple of weeks and put it in a different envelope and mailed it out that way. So from a deadline standpoint, I couldn't even meet that resolve right now if I tried. I can't go back to the editorial board for Engage Newport and say, well, do it anyway.
Yeah, can I just,
So, oh wait,
Yes.
but that was a resolve. I'll second it. with
Right, so,
those
so
two changes.
the motion to amend on the first resolve, change the word implement to research and to strike the last resolve. May I have a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second, discussion.
City manager.
Yeah.
City manager, please.
well, I just want, I've been talking about the phrase press conferences with John for a while now. And I heard something else tonight, which I think is intriguing, which I can do anyways, which I've always thought should be done anyways, and that is, we talked about press conferences versus city get-together for citizens to interact with the city. We've done that before. We did it on the snow issues when we met up at Fenner Hall. And at least from my thought process, since I can run my own show, I still am going to move forward with, for example, people want to hear, I think people want to hear about, somewhat about the wrap-up of the season with Broadway, to the extent it's going to wrap up. We have questions on Broadway every day, and we're running out there, and so it would probably be a good idea if we had some interaction with the citizens of Broadway soon to talk about Broadway and the wrap-up of the season and where we're going with Broadway. Similarly, the North End. We all know that we've been working a lot on North End issues. We're probably on the precipice of having a good, robust public discussion with generally people in the city. I think my point is I just don't want to take away from here that we're hamstrung or prevented from, your attitude is we don't want to proceed with these types of things, because I think that's ultimately, I'm glad the press conference was somewhat defined tonight in the way it was defined. When I initially think about press conferences, I think about, the president's representative up there talking about Iran. I'll take 5 questions. Well, you can't ask that, and you can ask this, and you can ask that, and being a little bit stiff on it. I did make some inquiries of the media about press conferences, at least the ones that I was thinking of. And I thought that they were a little bit lukewarm about it, but when you open it up and you redefine it as interaction and, the first ward or the council at large cocktail hour or coffee hour, the city manager's coffee hour, and we say, by the way, press, why don't you come and listen, because we want to invite the respective citizens who may be affected by this issue into City Hall, someplace in City Hall, or maybe here since we can't use City Hall, to try to have that interaction. So I think if anything comes out of this resolution tonight, it's that good thought process from you that I assume you're going to endorse, is that you want to urge this, some type of interaction, more interaction as it were, on things, on the larger issues, and maybe even on the smaller issues, like the snow removal issues that, or the snow meetings we had up at Fenner Hall. So I'm glad at least you defined the press conferences, because I think ultimately that's where I would recommend that you go with the press conferences. The newsletter issue, wherever you go with that is fine with the administration.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Council.
following up on the newsletter, I mean, so we have a quarterly newsletter. This would basically change it to a monthly newsletter. How much is it going to cost us?
Oh, I can't tell you what it's going to cost you. I don't know.
So I guess I would
Have
just.
to ask the next guy.
Yeah. So do we have
Maybe.
an approximate cost?
No, I don't know what, I mean, I could ask
guess I
Julia
just don't
Ford
wanna
what the mail, I mean, if she knows, because it's her department that mails out those things.
It takes a
what
lot,
it-
not just
what
the
it costs
mailing,
to-
I mean, to produce it, we'd be hiring
Right.
or paying World Ways.
Yeah, right.
So I guess I would just
I mean,
then,
I don't have figures like that for you. I
I'm
mean,
sorry, I would make a motion then to amend the resolve regarding the newsletter, that the staff come back to us with a budget of what it would cost to change the quarterly newsletters to monthly newsletters. So we know how much it's going to cost.
Are we clear that the newsletters that we're talking about are online and not paper?
Oh, I-
I think
I'm not-
this
I'm not
discussion
for-
is getting away from us here.
Okay.
You
This
know?
resolve instructs the creation of a monthly newsletter.
Monthly online newsletter. I want to be very clear about
It
that.
it doesn't say online.
Then I'll make an amendment to change it to online newsletter.
Is there a second?
But to my point, it will still have a cost because someone has to write the newsletter. The mailing actually isn't the big part of the cost. The cost is someone's job is to write it. And so
Can I
that's
just
my
weigh
question.
in here? Okay, I haven't said anything. I am not as crazy about this as your first one, John. When you talk about government and procrastination and delay, sometimes I think, thank God, they're deliberate and thoughtful. It takes time sometimes, and I know you're very energetic and you want it done yesterday. I look at this, and I have a real concern here. I think some of these ideas are great, but we really need some more meat on the bone, rather than say, go ahead and do it. I'd rather have, ask the different people to research this. As far as the meetings go, my God, I can't even, not only council meetings, there's been meetings about everything in terms of the water, the different neighborhoods. There's going to be a meeting about the gateway, or several meetings. There's no lack of communication. It's a matter of if the citizenry wants to come. So I'm a little bit, I'm not crazy about this one, and I don't think at this point I'm going to support it.
Madam Chair?
I like the ideas. I'd like to see them be more researched. Certainly, we can continue this discussion.
Magic words. Madam Chair, I'm going to make a motion to continue it, but first I just, when we got to the third or the fourth ball that we're juggling now, I think we really ought to have a rule of thumb that says, continue it. We're getting too far afield, or too much complexity. So I think the appropriate thing is to continue it just for 2 weeks. give John an opportunity to talk to more of us offline, talk to the staff. But I want to make one point about the news conferences, which I think is really important. The people that John's talked to, those are elected mayors.
Right.
That's a political process.
Right.
We have to be careful that we don't lose sight of the form of government which we have, which is a city manager, city council form of government. And the city manager is really the guy who's supposed to be out there catching the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. That's one of my concerns here. But with all due respect to John, I want to make a motion to continue this resolution, bring it back in 2 weeks, and take into consideration some of what you've heard tonight. I think it's getting too complicated to fix here with this amendment and that amendment.
Second.
Yep, second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Was the next meeting, did you,
He said
Next
2
meeting.
weeks.
2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks, 14th.
October 14th.
Is that the next?
It's 3 weeks, October 14th.
It is October 14th.
Oh, it is.
Oh, that's right. This is
Just
one of those
so I'm
3-week breaks.
clear,
Go ahead.
was there a second on Naomi's motion to
We can
amend?
just void that.
It's all void.
Okay,
void.
thank
It's all
you.
voted.
Resolution requesting the city administration to prepare an RFP for a symbol/tool that will track the status of council resolutions.
Councilor Flores.
In light of some new information, it's my understanding that there is a comparable system already being discussed, so I would like to table this.
Madam Chair, I'd like to talk about tabling it, because I want, if you would allow me.
Please.
I think we could just take your resolve and tell the city to, implement a tracking status of council resolutions, put it on the website, and keep it up to date, and let's tell them to do it. We've got it here, but we haven't told them to do it yet. So why don't we just tell them, this is the system, implement it.
I'm not going to do it until the first press conference, though.
So how do you feel about that?
I would second the motion
fine with that.
to change the resolve to implement a tracking system.
Leave it up to the city manager to figure out how best to do that, but, this is simple.
You want me to email it to
Good
you?
idea.
Yeah, I have it.
Oh,
Okay.
Email it.
This is a lot of conversation that,
Sorry, 2 hits here.
only the council has knowledge of. There was work done through, I think, yourself and Engage, that they've developed a tracking system, so,
I would make a motion to, or do we have received the draft?
make a motion to receive.
Sure, Madam Chair, make a motion to receive the draft?
Second.
There's a motion and second to receive the draft, and,
And we have a
the-
motion to amend the resolve to say implement a tracking system for resolutions.
Okay.
Second.
There's a motion to amend the resolve to say implement the tracking system.
I have a question. Can we add a date to that, whether it's 2 months from now, a month from now, just so we have?
Yeah, hopefully if I get it electronically tomorrow, we'll see what it takes to implement it right away. I know where it's going to go.
Okay.
So
To,
put
let's
it-
say,
I can
October
put it
I don't need a
31st.
date. I think you're going to have it online within the next week or so.
Okay,
Okay,
works for me.
all right. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
That was a motion
Those-
to amend,
The,
so we need
uh,
to,
On the original motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Action number 5436.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to continue this to the October 28th meeting.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Counselor.
I actually want to direct my comments to the solicitor and the city manager. I've thought about this request from the International Hall of Fame, and it has struck me, we really should be looking at this issue globally, not to be responsive to just one entity that's asked to benefit from it. So moving forward, I think we need to be careful that we aren't seen as changing the ordinance to benefit one entity. We should be doing it to make it available to any entity, any member of a class of entities. And I fully support what's being asked for here, but I just think as from a procedural standpoint, when we bring it back in 4 weeks, that maybe that's the way we should be looking at this.
I can communicate, just to be clear, that Gerard Galvin, the Assistant City Solicitor, is handling the matter. Mr. Bean is not participating in this matter.
No, the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
God, Joe.
Mr. Bean is not participating in this matter, nor am I.
Okay.
The staff assigned to it is Gerard Galvin, who is the Assistant Solicitor, and Laura Citron, who was here. But I'm sure she'll take your comments.
Okay.
Madam
Thank you.
Chair?
Yes, Counsel.
I brought the same issue up that Councilor McLaughlin brought up to the city manager, who then
I guess I will.
talked to Solicitor Galvin, because I think that this should not be about one organization, one nonprofit, one group. It should be something that is looked at in the entirety with the effect that it will encompass on all that are affected by this ordinance change that was requested. And I think it's really important to say, who does this affect? Is it one group? Could it be open to more groups? And that needs to, I think, be looked at, which it is being looked at, because I've brought it up before when I first read about it, and that's why it's now being continued anyway.
Thank you. Next item?
Just
Madam
need a vote
Chair,
on the
Madam Chair, we haven't
continuance.
We need to
yet.
vote.
Oh, sorry. I've been distracted. Yes, Laura?
Just a vote on the
Okay,
continuance.
thank you. Okay,
To continue.
Madam Chair,
somebody
original.
want to make a
Yeah,
motion?
motion to
Motion to
continue to
continue.
October 28th.
Second.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Action number 5444.
Madam Chair, the Water Pollution Control Division staff recommends the award of Amendment Number 1 in accordance with Section 10 Supplemental Agreements of Contract 15-037 to CH2M Hill for engineering services for drainage, investigation, and flooding analysis for Wellington Avenue and Bridge Street for an amount not to exceed $268,266. The amendment is for services associated with the cleaning, condition assessment, and development of rehabilitation recommendations for the Marsh Street storm drain, which is in need of immediate attention. Funding will be provided from the Water Pollution Control Enterprise Fund for capital improvements. I move approval of accompanying resolution.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes,
Quick
Counselor?
question. I read this, and it said that there was a sinkhole in the drain in Marsh Street near 3rd Street that developed, and the repair was made in 2014. And it said that the repair was based on a CCTV inspection that was conducted by United Water. So my question is, did it flow correctly after that? So is this identified as a new issue, or it's a continuing issue that we paid for and really just never got fixed?
Could you identify yourself?
Julia Forge, Director of Utilities. This brick sewer, which was built in the 1800s, they weren't able to TV the entire length, the 1,900 linear feet, because of a lot of the debris. The bricks are falling into it, and there's a lot of muck and debris in the drain. Where the sinkhole was, they were able to see, and they made the repair. But looking at it again with this, after a year, having more bricks falling and more sinkholes, it's really recommended that we do a thorough cleaning so that we can CCTV it and get a full assessment. Other problem with this drain is we have a lot of utilities, which similar to what we had on Thames Street with gas services are going through it. So we have to get those relocated and also.
Thank you. That was
Okay.
that answer. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Any other questions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Action number 5445.
Madam Chair, Water Pollution Control Division staff recommends the award of the construction contract for the Washington Street CSO Treatment Facility Upgrades Project, contract number 16-003, to Hart Engineering Corporation of Cumberland for the not-to-exceed fee of $775,940. $15,000 for police details will be paid directly by the city. The total recommended expenditure for this project shall be $790,940. $940. It is currently budgeted. I move approval of accompanying resolution.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Counselor
I had
Neville.
a question for Director Forge. So you only received one bid from this, from Hart Construction. Have we ever used Hart before?
We're very familiar with their work.
You are, okay.
Yeah, they're a reputable firm.
And since we only got one bid, how did their price come in compared to what you were estimating the cost of the project to be?
It's below what we had estimated.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
That's my
Hearing
question.
none, are we ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Action number 5446.
Madam Chair, Water Pollution Control Division staff recommends in accordance with Section 10 supplemental agreements of Contract 14-036, engineering services for Washington Street CSO treatment facility upgrades with Wright Pierce, the award of Amendment 1 for engineering services for construction services of the not-to-exceed fee of $87,180. It is also recommended that the term of the agreement be extended to September 30th, 2016. It is currently budgeted. I move approval of accompanying resolution.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Action number 5447.
Madam Chair, Water Pollution Control Division staff recommends approval of a grant agreement with Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management, which provides 50% of the costs associated with Almy Pond Green Infrastructure Pilot Testing Project. The grant award is for $250,000 based on the projected cost of $500,000 for this project. Funding for the city's required 50% match of $250,000 will be provided from the Water Pollution Control Division Control Capital Improvement Program. I move approval of accompanying resolution.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Action number 5448.
Madam Chair, Water Division staff recommends the award of the North Pond Aeration System Project, number 16-017, to Aquatic Control Technology LLC of Spencer, Massachusetts, in the amount of $44,470. Funding for this project will be provided from the Water Division Capital Improvement Program. I move approval of accompanying resolution.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Counselor.
Councilor Leonard, Councilor Neville actually asked my first question, but there are two more awards here where there was only one bidder, and it would just be, are the costs that you're paying for these services in line with what your estimates were in advance? And we've got a good answer for the first one, but
Rob Schultz, Deputy Director of Utilities. This came in $10,000 under my budget.
and while you're up there, I'm going to ask you about the next one, too.
Into the mic, please. Thanks.
Well, just stay there. I'm going to ask you for the next one as
Okay.
well. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Ready to vote, Madam Chair.
Ready to-
Yes.
Okay, everybody's ready to vote on 5448, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct, Madam Chair.
Any other questions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Action number 5449.
Madam Chair, Water Division staff recommends the award of the construction contract for the Seconic Pump Station Building Modifications and Maintenance Project, contract number 16-015, to R. Zoppo Corporation of Stoughton, Massachusetts, for the not-to-exceed fee of $76,500. Funding for this project will be provided from the Water Division Control Capital Improvement Program. I move approval of accompanying resolution.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Counselor Leonard.
I'm going to take this one step further here and just say, again, we have the one bid, so my question to you is, how do you decide or determine that this is either below or at what you are thinking that the amount should be? Is there some kind of standard that's normally used?
In this case, we worked with PAR Engineering to develop the construction specs, and so they have unit pricing for the amount of work, machinery, man-hours, estimates, and so that comes out with pricing in similar projects that they've done or the city's done. We total it out, come to that estimate, and use that for a baseline to compare what we have, and this one actually was under that as well.
I would personally think that, and maybe I'm wrong, that we should make an effort and I don't know how, to see if we can actually get more than one bid as we have on several of these.
We had 3 people show up to the pre-bid for this, and
You
only one
did?
chose to bid it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, are we ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Action number 5450.
Yes, on this one, I'm going to recuse myself.
Members of council, Water Division staff recommends the award of the Station 1 Raw Water Building Roof Replacement Project number 16-025 to A1 Roofing and Construction LLC of Middletown, Rhode Island, in the amount of $40,850. Funding for this project will be provided from the Water Division Capital Improvement Program. It is currently budgeted. I move approval of accompanying resolution.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve. Discussion?
Madam Chair,
Sure, I'll do that.
Are you mad enough?
focusing on the fact that we only have one bidder again, and this is a roofing contract. We often get multiple bids on roofing contracts. Can you explain why we only have one bid on a roofing contract?
I can't. I'm surprised there was only one bid. We actually had to rebid this project. I did a mandatory pre-construction meeting, so the contractors would have to come. We had 2 contractors show up. Neither of them bid it, and we had to go out and rebid it again.
Are we advertising them the way we always advertise?
Yes.
Has there been any change in that? So we were just going to say the economy is so good, everybody's really busy, and they don't have time for this work? Okay.
Some of them are...
Sounds all right. Thank you. That's it.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Madam Chair, I make a motion to adjourn as council and convene as Board of License Commissioners.
Second?
There's a motion and second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
The consent calendar.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent calendar in its entirety.
Second?
There's a motion, second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
There's a motion, second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
How you doing?